10. Match day 10. So we begin. Ben, how was your turkey day?
Oh, turkey day. I thought you were going to ask how my match week 10 was. It was probably just as interesting as game week 10 in that only one good thing happened. You do all this work, watch a lot of matches, and then really the payoff is in around the eating. So lots of waiting, lots of putting in the time just for slim rewards. So pretty good all around.
Pretty good all around. I'm going to say that my turkey, my wife did a very good Thanksgiving, but I did a lot of grilling like around the days of Thanksgiving that was like optimal. So I really, big ups to me that I'm becoming like this gourmet chef on the grill, like, which I could barely boil an egg before, but I'm starting what did I do? I grilled a whole chicken, made some hamburgers, made some barbecue chicken. So I'm like my confidence in the kitchen, not associated with Thanksgiving, but around Thanksgiving is very high right now. Very high.
My Thanksgiving involved a lot of leftovers, and I think there was a lot of leftovers on show in game week 10 as well.
Whew. So, Ben, you talked about sort of Thanksgiving being a letdown. I have a feeling that the first topic we're going to talk about is very much a letdown to you. A lot of hype, not a lot of rewards. Then the first match we're going to talk about, Chelsea 0, Tottenham 0. Give me your thoughts.
I think on paper it looked great. You've got all this money spent on the most attacking Chelsea team, all these midfielders pressing high up the field. Then you've got this great Tottenham system that's built for counter-attacking. We should see lots of goals one end against a weak Spurs, but then lots of goals on the break as well as Kane finds Son on the wing as well. And what happened was two teams sat back, very defensive. A huge snooze. Not what you need when you're full of turkey.
I don't know if Chelsea sat back defensive. They didn't push. Now you'd be stupid to not drop Mason Mount and drop some of those midfielders to cover Kane and Son on the break. Maybe they didn't. COVID sort of robbed them. I think if you were to say that Chelsea sat back, you may point to that Havertz instead of Kovacic instead of Havertz, right? That you didn't play an attacking 8 there. But Havertz had the Rona, man, so it wasn't as match fit as we wanted to. But I do think that Chelsea came out to play, but we can ultimately talk about it. Maybe a bit wasteful. Ben, I agree. Boring for the neutrals. For me, it was a very tense match. I thought that there was a lot of half chances, not a lot of clear-cut, gilted chances. But Ben, this week there's going to be a lot of talk about some XG. Found some great XG accounts on the web. Spurs' expected goals for the first half, 0.17 XG. Not a barn burner, but they had a breakaway. They had one breakaway attempt, so they expected Spurs to score about 0.2 of a goal. In the second half, Ben, do you know what the Spurs' XG was?
Well, by the looks of it, it was negative number, but you tell me.
0.0. They expected them to have 0 goals, and God may have mercy on your soul. They did not, Mourinho, I think it was in 2004, he I think he developed the term parking the bus. I think that was originally him describing Tottenham. And Mourinho talked about being disappointed not going for the win. Then at a certain point, he put on Ben Davis as a winger to shut down Chelsea on the counter. So if we talk about the sort of the boringness of the match, I really think it comes down to one person. It's Tammy Abraham. Because if you look at it, Tammy Abraham, Reece James has put in more crosses into the box than any other winger in the Premier League. And he put about 2 or 3 great crosses that I don't know if Olivier Giroud gets to the ball because he's a little bit slower than Tammy Abraham, but a competent header scores some of, at least puts a shot on frame, right? I think it wasn't Tammy. I think there's been a lot of debate about Tammy Abraham and should he be the 9 and Werner coming in from the wing. I think that this is the beginning of the end of that experiment.
You know what Tammy Abraham suffers from? He has chronic Peter Crouch disease, in the meaning What that means is his body type, if someone, he's tall, he's quick, he looks like someone that should be a complete forward, that he's tall as well and should be getting on the end of crosses. That's not his game, and that's what they said about Peter Crouch as well. At 6'7", you should be burying those headers. That's not their game. He is quick and he is a poacher. He's a quick finisher with a good through ball. He's not built for crosses. That's not what he's good at. So I think he's a poacher being asked to play more of a complete forward assister as well. But I'll agree, he was embarrassing on some of those crosses, his heading sticking out a leg. But I just don't think that's his game, and I wouldn't cut Abraham out, but maybe a Werner a bit deeper and feeding at Abraham. That's how those two can play together.
Well, I mean, that's a problem when you probably have the two best crosser. Well, besides Trent Alexander-Arnold, I don't think that you're going to find two better crossers than Ziyech and Reece James on the wing. So you probably want someone that can finish crosses. So if Tammy Abraham is not going to finish crosses, I mean, I don't know if Giroud's the answer, or you put Werner down because you got, Team America, World Police, Tin God, Pulisic, Captain America coming back. Do you put him on the left and Werner through the center and sort of have an amorphous front line where Pulisic is popping up at the 9, Ziyech is popping up at the 9, Werner, and they sort of rotate in and out? Or you play Giroud through the middle and then put either Werner and Pulisic on the left. I think Ziyech is going to stay on the right no matter what, because his left foot is the sweetest thing in my life right now. Apologies to my wife.
I don't think you need I think you're right. I think Timo Werner through the middle is what's going to do it. Pulisic on the left as well. I think Werner still hasn't caught fire yet, and I think he's doing a job. He had a good offside goal ruled out as well, which was a great finish. But he's not been banging them in like you think he would. I think he's being played slightly out position, and we had this conversation last week, similar to Aubameyang. But I do think that having a lone striker in the middle of Timo Werner is going to help Chelsea, because they should be scoring more, and they should have scored more against Spurs as well.
Yeah, that offside goal was pretty sweet, though. It was a nice bender. Ben.
No. Well, let me ask you this: do you think Lampard's too cautious against big teams? So very similar game to United, that he comes in with all this attacking talent. They've spent a ton, and then it's another boring 0-0 eke. Why does Lampard play so cautiously against these supposed big teams, but who are also vulnerable in defence?
I don't think he played nearly as cautious against Tottenham. I think Tottenham sat Chelsea had a bunch of half chances, but they were pushing into to Tottenham. I think the scoreline's the same against Manchester United, but the result, I mean, it was different formation too. Against United, they had Kovacic and Conte in the double pivot. This time they had Conte in the single pivot. Again, I don't think he was super, but a point there is not a bad result if you're trying to win the league. Right? It's not a bad result. It's not the most aesthetically pleasing result, but it's not a bad result. So, I don't know. If he keeps playing Kovacic instead of playing a more attacking 8 there, because Kovacic may actually, what Kovacic does well is he dribbles really well under pressure. So against Liverpool, he even did it against Spurs, is he can bring the ball and carry the ball through midfield, but he is useless around the box. Useless, right? So, I don't really know if you needed that dribbler. Well, I guess what he played Kovacic for is to dribble and then one to check Son and Kane on the wings. So as Reece James pushed up, as Ben Chilwell pushes up, you drop back those 8s so that they're in the channel a little bit. But so that's a very winding answer. It didn't really get to the point. So I don't think he played as conservatively as he played against United, because he didn't play Jorginho in a double pivot. But I think going forward, it'll be interesting to see if the most attacking lineup is his preferred lineup against. I don't even know the next big team we play. I don't even know the next big team we play. I don't even know if we can consider Arsenal the next big team. But we haven't played Manchester City yet. Against City, if he plays a midfield of Conte, he's going to play a midfield of Conte and Mount. That third midfielder is really going to be the indicator of how seriously he's going for it on the offensive side. If it's Havertz, then he's going for it offensively. If it's Kovacic or Jorginho, then he's too pragmatic for my liking.
Who would have thought Frank Lampard would be pragmatic in defence as well? I think he got some beatings last season. Last question then on this game. Who do you think's happier with the point?
Oh, we have two. I have two more questions for you. Oh, definitely Mourinho. For sure, Mourinho. You're going away to Chelsea. You're definitely. He set out for a point. He set out for a point. Like, again, he had expected goals of 0 in the second half. He put Ben Davis as a winger in the second half. Two questions for you, Ben. Question number one. 2020 has been a weird year. A show about chess is the number one show. So all sorts of insanity has been going on. But is the most insane thing that Eric Dyer is now England's best center back?
So I'm not sure the number one weird thing about 2020 is a chess show on Netflix is number one, but let's go with that. I think he's surprisingly good. He's athletic, he's physical, he's probably as mobile as you want for a defender as well, and he's not been prone to mistakes. Now I will say we've got a very small sample size. The jury's still out, but I think it's interesting, right? This experiment seems to be working, and all hail Mourinho for moving him back into defence. But I think so far so good, and he did a good job against Chelsea. So let's see how it continues.
The Dire Wolf. I love the Dire Wolf. It's a
Dire Wolf.
The Dire Wolf. So Ben, coming out of this, I was very interested to see your big narrative going into this match was what was Chelsea for real going into this match? So coming out of that match, do you think they're for real? Are they not for real? Or do you need more evidence based on that match?
So this was their first game with the for real test, and I don't think they did a good job. They got a point against Spurs, which, let's see, time will tell whether that's a good result or not. I think Arsenal will be interesting, but I think they failed their first jump of proving that they're for real. So we'll see. Too early to tell.
Tough judge, but I think it was a better point. Look, would I love the 3 points? Of course. But there was only one team that came to play for 3 points in that match, and that was Chelsea. That was it. Okay. Let's go around the league. Ben, speaking of sides struggling for goals, Everton 0, Leeds 1. Ben, I told you we talked about XG. If you put the XG from the last 2 games from Leeds together, the actual expected goals, they should have scored 5.4 goals, which is a ton of goals according to XG. But they've only gotten 1 goal, Ben. Leeds are the best sides to watch, but I can kind of see now why Leeds fans hate Patrick Bamford. I can see it.
I'll share my theory here, and this is another hot take as well to go along with players win matches, coaches win leagues. XG is a great signifier of quality in your team, meaning I think Leeds having a really high XG but low conversion just shows that their system works. They're built to create chances. What it also shows as well is that maybe they're missing a world-class player. So they're great at creating, maybe that quality of chance, maybe the final ball into the box, or maybe the finishing is lacking, all due to maybe not having a world-class person in place. Now, if you put in enough chances, you should score goals, and I think that's what Leeds do. But I think it shows you how effective their system is, which is amazing, which comes down to the manager, and also how far they've got with not world-class players as well, because that shows in their XG. And I think the opposite is true when you look at a team like Leicester, a team who create very low XG but score over a number of goals as well, showing that they've got really great creating chances when it does happen, and the quality of creation and the finishing is world class. So I think it just goes to show how good the system is at Leeds. What do you think about that hot take on how good it shows players are versus the system?
I agree, right? Like I think that Bielsa creates a lot of scenarios, good goal scoring scenarios. I do wonder if the frenetic pace they play at doesn't lead to clinical finishing, right? It's just so frenetic. I will say this though, I don't know if Rafinha is world class, But that goal was great. He's a new signing. That looks like a great signing for Leeds. I was really impressed with Rafinha.
Yeah, him and Calvin Phillips got all the plaudits for this as well. But Rafinha, he was a big buy for them, and I think they needed to spend some money in the Premier League just to show they were serious. But Calvin Phillips is that defensive screen and being talked about challenging Declan Rice in that position as well. Had a great game. For me, this was the best game of the weekend in terms of excitement. They're a quality, exciting team to watch.
So Declan Rice came up as a center back and played center back, and there are some talks that I'd be interested if England dropped Direwolf and Rice into a back three. Maybe with Kyle Walker being, I don't know who you play on the left side, but if it seems like with the amount of you could even put Reece James as one of the back three because he's a stout boy. That way you could get TAA and Reece James. I don't know if I see a classic great center back two, but there's enough mobile people that maybe you could play a back three for England. And I think that Rice and Direwolf might be interesting options back there instead of playing them in the traditional holding role. Yes. Okay. Ben, we're going to talk a little bit about VAR because there was some very interesting calls this week. The first one of them, Brighton 1, Liverpool 1. Ben, was that a penalty in the 92nd minute, 93rd minute?
So someone kicked out and kicked the Brighton player, right? Who was it? It wasn't Milner because he was off, but someone.
It was Robertson.
That's it. Robertson.
Robbo. I now know that Jurgen Klopp calls him Robbo because there's a story that goes with that at the end of this game.
Okay. There was another one a couple of weeks ago where a player's natural movement through the ball, like a swing, and yet they make contact with another player. And that is, if it was Welbeck, his foot was up and out away from him. And it was a ball being cleared. Robbo swung, put his foot through it, and happened to hit Welbeck's foot that was also up in the air as well. 100% not a penalty. But if you want to get into it, that's got nothing to do with VAR. That is to do with the refereeing standard and not VAR. VAR just says, review this, is it a penalty? And then it's still that referee saying, yes, it is. So that error is on the referee.
Yeah, I love the sports, football and soccer, but the fact that any foul in the box is worth 0.8 goals, right? It's too much of it. It's too big. It changes too much. In VAR, the reason why it is somewhat of a VAR issue is that now we have the ability to really focus in, because anything's a foul in the box is now a penalty, right? Whereas before you could sort of get away with it. There was less sort of scrutiny on it. I agree the standard is the issue, but VAR is the microscope exposing that standard. So it's so I don't really know how you say that's a foul in the box, but it's not a penalty-worthy foul, right? But that's what I think in my head sometimes when some of these fouls happen. It's you didn't deny a goal-scoring opportunity. You touched him on the foot. Yes, by the letter of the law, it's a foul, but it's the consequence of the foul is not worth 8 times out of 10 it scoring a goal. It's just not.
So this is my defense of VAR, and especially in this Brighton game, love it or hate it, VAR's right. Whether they're a millimetre offside, and that's point of accuracy is defined.
We're gonna get to.
Oh, okay, we're saving that VAR chat.
We're the West Ham and Villa. VAR was wrong there. I don't care what you say.
Well, I'm not saying. Okay, well, VAR is either it's wrong or right, and I hear all this discussion around VAR around maybe make the lines bigger, maybe put 5 centimeters of error in there because that's what a linesman is, and I don't think that's the point. The problem with VAR is how long it takes to reach decision and confirm a goal, and I think that takes the love and the joy and the passion out of the game and makes it more sterile. I think VAR does a great job. It makes it fair, like it or lump it. If you're a millimetre offside, you're either offside or onside, and that's what VAR tells you. Now, things about a foul in the box, the referee might have let that go in other games without VAR, but you're forcing him to make a decision. But in that point where he kicks through, in the games of the law, that's a foul he has to give it. It makes it more robotic. And everyone said, we want this fair. We don't want the referee's decisions to give up a game. Well, here it is, fair or not. This is what it looks like, and people don't like it. And I don't think that's VAR's fault.
Well, so do you ever feel like there will be a time where VAR, like where people just say, I'd rather not have VAR? I just or like we're only gonna have VAR for Hawkeye like level things where like did the ball cross the line or not? That's it. And that's very like okay. I think we talked enough about VAR. I do want to get to the reason why I know that Jurgen Klopp calls in Robbo. Did you catch little Kloppy's 8-minute rant after the game?
I think I saw some of it. He's not happy. He blamed BT, went after BT Sport for 12:30 kickoff. Yeah.
Oh, he blamed BT Sports for what's his name's injury?
Milner's. Yeah.
What's up?
James Milner's injury.
Yeah, Milner's hamstring injury. He said it was your fault, and the presenter was like, "Whoa, buddy, calm down. It's not my fault. The Premier League agreed to these 12:30 kickoffs." It's interesting that we have sort of at the beginning of the season. What was the narrative? Klopp, happy-go-lucky. He's everyone's best friend, everyone's second favorite manager. Mourinho, he is like everyone's least favorite manager. Game has passed him by. He sucks. He's terrible. They have sort of switched roles in like the crankiness versus happy. Mourinho's dominating Instagram, got his team on top of the league, making everyone like being like kind of playful in press conferences. And this is not the first time Klopp is hit out and seems like really bitter and like, yeah, Jurgen, I get it. The games are really tough, but everyone's losing money and like no one's asking you to take a pay cut right now. So everyone's got to kind of make sacrifices because this ultimately is a business, right? And I get why he's got to protect his players, but hitting out on the broadcaster, like the presenter of the broadcast, right? Like and pointing his finger and saying, you're the issue. It's just Bush League. It's just kind of funny to see Klopp act sort of Mourinho. He's acting very Mourinho-like.
It's very. I think it's a deflection of blame. It's trying to cover away the fact that you tied against Brighton by pointing fingers. Now he could have won, and it wouldn't have been such a rant. I think some of that is to do with anger over the injuries. I will say, and I don't think this will make Klopp feel any better, but he has been very, very, very lucky with injuries in his managerialship of Liverpool. He's had a very thin squad with some very key players, and he hasn't lost anyone until this season. He hasn't lost anyone to any long-term injuries with a very thin squad. Now he's got the deepest squad he's ever had at Liverpool, and he's getting absolutely nailed by injuries. But I think there's some kind of, well, we know Klopp, it's a weird season. You're not really going to get dinged if you don't win the league this time. But I do think that it's a little bit of just call it karma catching up with him around injuries. And I think a lot of it was frustration against the result against Brighton, frustration with his team, frustration with fielding a squad. But yeah, I hate that deflection and wrongly placed blame.
Yep.
It's not classy.
I agree. Ben, also, I feel like every time I watch Diego Jota now, he's just taunting me by being so good. He's just great goal for
what a player.
Yeah, I called him a bust from the very beginning. I didn't think he was very good. Just proving me wrong every week. Ben, let's go to your squad. Southampton 2, United 3. Ben, this was really a tale of two halves. Now, actually, United didn't play that bad in the first half, and we're unlucky to be down 2 goals. But the story of the first half was James Ward-Prowse. And Ben, let me tell you something. I've been rewatching Downton Abbey. She loves it. She's like, this is a soap opera. I was like, yes, it's a gussied up soap opera. Brazilians love soap operas, but they do. It's actually soap operas come on during the times like at 8, 9 o'clock during prime time in Brazil, and football has to be played after the soap opera.
Huh.
So yeah, little known fact. But Ben, I was thinking about James Ward-Prowse. Would he be upstairs or downstairs? If he was downstairs, would he be a Mr. Bates? Would he be a footman like Thomas? I have my opinions. Where do you think he falls into the Downton Abbey hierarchy?
He is downstairs, but he's top of the echelon. He's a chauffeur. He's driving that car on a regular basis. He is a very, very sweet kid.
He would be a Branson. That's who I thought. I thought a little bit separated.
Mm-hmm.
That is actually where my thinking head was. We're aligned here. We're aligned here. But yes, so Mr. Branson, James Ward-Prowse, the bourgeoisie of the downstairs, keep scoring goals. Scored a free kick that almost decapitated De Gea, and then assisted the corner. He's just, at a certain point, you have to say, is he just going to make the Euros just for dead ball situations?
Yeah, I hope not. I hope that's not the reason you get in there. Now, special team, you could bring him on for it, maybe bringing him on in the final minutes. I wish there was more to his game because he is so good at that. But then you've got a lot of great England players who've got a good right foot as well. So I'm not sure bringing him in just for that is key. But yeah, he's a difference maker for Southampton right now with his set piece play. And that free kick was a thing of beauty. And I think you should get double points if you manage to injure the opposition keeper in the process of scoring a goal as well.
I mean, De Gea looked pretty lit. It wasn't quite as bad as Jake Paul knocking out Nate Robertson like that line, but De Gea getting injured trying to save the ball was pretty funny.
Yeah, insult to injury, for sure.
But that was the first half, Ben. James Ward-Prowse is downstairs, but you know who's upstairs? Who's been upstairs for a while, even he's older, little Mr. Edison Cavani with 2 goals and 1 assist. The second half was the Cavani show. I've made fun of him for being old, but hey, he scored a real poacher's goal with that header. Real poacher's goal, but he drove United back. So we got to give our praise up to Edison Cavani.
Yeah, what a player. What a performance. I think some of it was a creation as well. So he created the goal for Bruno as well, and then got 2 goals after that as well, just for his movement and pace. And I think what really, really gets me more than anything is everyone that came out afterwards and said, Ole is a tactical genius. He made this masterful substitution. He picked this little known player that no one had ever heard of off his subs bench and gave him his best try and put him in for this seasoned great England striker, Mason Green. I mean, Cavani's been one of the best strikers in the world for the last 10 years. So to put him on instead of Mason Greenwood doesn't really say you're a tactical genius to me. And he didn't, you're right, the first half we just got, we were so easy to defend about. Defend narrow. United don't have any width. They always try and play through the middle, just keep it tight. They won't send the ball through. So I'm a little bit annoyed at the Ole genius comments and tactical mastermind. He didn't play particularly well against Southampton. Southampton's had their number from the start. And I think, again, it's just quality of players that jagged us through as well. And I think Cavani going wide and whipping balls in definitely helped. And he did well to get on the end of a couple as well.
Well, Ben, we always have to vacillate between Ole genius, Ole fired. It's like this is what we have to do. I think what we should start doing is ranking each week the power rankings of the former player managers, Frank, Arteta, and Ole. Kind of that power ranking each week of who's on top that week. Because I'll tell you what, Arteta was on top of it at the beginning of the season, and boy, is he at the bottom now. Ben, let's talk about that right now. Arsenal 1, Wolves 2. Actually, before we get to Arteta, horrible injury for Jimenez. Horrible, right? A lot of talk about David Luiz coming on or staying on the pitch, despite clearly having a concussion. Ben, do you support, I guess it's a kind of a leading question because who doesn't support a concussion sub? But how do you, I just think that you should, I kind of think with this, that I don't like in soccer how injuries can ruin, can materially, basically there should be more subs because an injury should not be that impactful into the game. That if you have a replacement on your bench, he should be able to come in and not ruin the game. I don't know why soccer is so obsessed with basically that injuries are so detrimental to that individual game, right? And that we can't even take a player off who has a concussion because it's Like, because we only get 3 subs and we can basically only use 2 of them, right?
Yeah. So I think we both agree that yes, we should protect the players. Yes, we need laws around head injuries, and they should be different. And you shouldn't feel you can't take off a player because you don't have a sub. I guess let's talk about the mechanics here, because I think there's 2 schools of thought. Is the mechanic you're suggesting for a head injury that, and I think the one I've heard is it's a temporary sub. So while that player is let's say Lewis, he would have been taken off. He would have been assessed by that own team's doctor. And while he's going through this assessment of a quick sideline concussion assessment, you can put another defender in there so you're not penalised. You don't feel you need to rush this player back into the game. And that is maybe separate and outside of substitutions.
But if he fails the test, then you have to take the temporary sub off?
No, he stays on. Like, you have a temporary sub, but which you can switch back if Lewis has said, because that's the recommendation around this sub. It's the idea of being able to put someone on in the place of this while someone gets a proper medical assessment on the sideline to feel that you don't rush this player back on.
So if you've used three subs before that, can you have a temporary sub?
So it's almost not like making a sub. It's almost like a tag in for a player while have a stand-in outside of subs while that player gets treated on the sideline and determined whether he should go back into the game or not.
I like that. I just think there should be more subs.
Yeah. Or there's an idea of an emergency sub that if your player has a head injury, then you should be able to switch them out. But I
don't know why you delineate a head injury from a broken leg, right? Like,
Yeah.
I get why you do it, because head injuries haven't been taken seriously and you want them to be taken seriously, so you treat them a little bit different, right? But like, I don't know. It's crazy to me that like if you have used your 3 subs and then a player breaks a leg, then like you're just shit out of luck.
I think it goes back to this, like, no good deed goes unpunished, that substitutions used to be around injuries and fatigue and cramps. And then managers started to say, well, we could use these tactically. We could swap roles and actually build different teams during the game. And then I think the concern is that if you start then adding more rules or more possibilities, like the water break suddenly became not just a chance to get water in your player on a hot day, but a chance to have another chance to change your team and coach them and change formation in that. So I think you're always going to have a manager leverage that situation as much as possible. What if I want to make a change because my player's got cramp? I'm going to tell everyone he's got a head injury or go down with a head injury, and then I can make a swap. But I think that I think other sports do it well, and I think that it just needs to be adopted in soccer. But I think what holds us back is the idea of we want this to be a fast-paced game, and I think things like VAR, assessments on the sideline, multiple substitutions, 5 subs in a game, anything that could jeopardize the quickness and the fluidity of a game is why they're considering it.
All right, then we can talk about the subs later, because there's a way you could legislate around that. Like, you could have 5 subs, but you have to use them in the same way of 3 subs.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, you've been crying out for Aubameyang up top. Well, let me tell you, Ben, Aubameyang was up top, and he stinks. He stinks. He's terrible. He doesn't care anymore. He's done. They paid him. Off on a beach. He's not going to score ever again. It's not going to happen.
I disagree with you. Who knows what happened? It's that Ozil curse. As soon as you put another 0 on their salary, they give up.
Here's how I knew that, Aubameyang doesn't really, because why would Aubameyang stay there? He claims that he has this great love for the club. He's been there for 3 years, right? It's not like he grew up there. It's not like he's been there. Even someone I don't know. It would be like Harry Maguire if Barcelona wanted him, being no. I have this great loyalty to Manchester United. You've been there for 2 years, right? In Manchester United, it's the only one who's going to pay you this incredible amount. Now, it's funny to think about Harry Maguire and Las Ramblas in Barcelona. That's a funny mental image, but it just doesn't make. He hasn't been there long enough to be that attached to the club, and he doesn't him not leaving Arsenal showed me a lack of ambition. Just did. Like, I don't think he cared.
Isn't it funny that I think there's going to be a movement soon about not overplaying or going all in on a player to keep them. I think we've seen so many transfer flops, so many players rotting on the bench with not just Ozil at Arsenal, which is the common one, but like Eriksen now at Inter. But these players, Hazard, these players that you go all in for, and then suddenly injuries keep them out, form keeps them out. That it's not the best idea to tie a player in for big money on a long-term contract. That's not the right way to do business. No one's irreplaceable. You can't predict what's going to happen next year. No one's worth that, and hopefully you'll see just a change in the way contracts are made and players are paid, because it does the club no service to lock a player in for X amount of money. It never seems to work out. Look at the Pardew 7 years at Newcastle. It only just expired last week. What's the point?
Well, maybe when they're 23, not when they're 31, right? Like, it doesn't make sense. Like, Hazard was like 30 when he signed that contract, 29. Like, you're past it. Like, you're on the decline, past it. Okay.
Yeah.
Then you talked about VAR being right before. I'm going to tell you, VAR was wrong in the West Ham Villa game. West Ham 2, Villa 1. In the 94th minute, Ollie Watkins scores an equalizer. Tell me how that's offsides.
Well, wasn't his shirt was offside? Like, I mean,
there's no advantage given. Like, they had to. It took them like 20 minutes to draw the lines. They couldn't. Like, you couldn't. They drew the lines. You couldn't. I watched it and I was like, that's not offsides. You can't. I don't understand how that's offsides.
It was this was the armpit one, right? He was a little bit armpit. They drew it down. There was another defender. You know, it was the close. It doesn't matter. Like, you're either offside or you're not. Whether it's by a
if you
millimeter.
Can't draw the line in the time that it takes to, I don't know, say the Lord or whatnot, it's not offsides. It's just
so maybe there's a new rule to VAR. If you can't decide 100% that he's offside in 10 seconds, then he's going to be onside, because that's human error. But then aren't you going to get really good at just drawing the line, like haphazardly?
VAR is supposed to be clear and obvious. That is not clear and obvious. It was not clear and obvious. It's supposed to be for clear and obvious mistakes. That's what we're missing here.
Yeah.
Like, not clear and obvious. Villa, I would be incandescent about that goal. Same thing, that goal, and there was a Patrick Bamford goal with another little armpit arm thing, where it's just like, there is no advantage being played here. And again, clear and obvious.
Do you think we'll see body paint instead of shirts now? Because shirts is now coming into the conversation, and you can be offered. Yeah, we talked about straight jackets and body paint.
No, just getting the old Arsenal Puma kits, the tight nipple, they look like like Lance Armstrong biker jerseys, where it's just like nothing there.
Yeah, there was 2 seasons ago, or last season for sure, that dry fit was very, very fashionable right before all the drunk, fat pub guys looked disgusting in it, and it wasn't catching on. And so now you've got these floral Man City shirts that you can wear to the pub and wear out on nice dinners. But I think body paint, anything to give you an advantage.
Wait, you're wearing, your floral Man City kit out.
Oh, you don't think that's why they made that floral kit? It's so like football fans can wear it to nice dinners with their family at the height of fashion.
You show up to like Ruth's Chris in your finest Man City third kit.
Hell yeah! You look a kind and sensitive man in that floral design for sure. That's not for playing football in. That's for going to dinner.
It says I need to see the wine list. Every time I see that jersey, I'm like, yes, bring me the wine list. I'm wearing my Man City third kit.
It's like, can I borrow your chapstick? Is what that shirt screams.
Oh my God. Okay, Ben. I am so happy to say my winner of the week as we recap this week. My winner of the week is the Fulham Football Club. What a win against Leicester, and even scored a penalty. I was watching it during I was working. Fulham completely deserved that result. Got a little hairy at the end, but was very good in that match. I thought Fulham was going to be the worst team in the league by far and away. When you have your owner like tweeting back random people about crying about how he couldn't sign a center back because of COVID, I was like, that team's going to get relegated. But hey, they've played some decent football. I like Scott Parker. He would be upstairs. Scott Parker definitely upstairs.
For sure.
For sure upstairs.
I'm a little disappointed that they eventually sold out to Big Pen, building on last week, but I guess that's what happens. They thought they'd take Big Pen's money and slot one away finally. So a little bit disappointed, but yeah. And against Leicester as well, no mean feat. And I think that's just a sign that Leicester play on the counter, but if you sit deep against them, they're definitely vulnerable. And Leicester in trouble. That's 2 losses now.
Yeah, well,
against teams they're expected to beat. I guess one was Liverpool, but still.
Yeah, I mean, look. If we need to think about like stocking horses for I don't think that Leicester has it to make top 4. So I'm not really worried about them. As a Chelsea fan, they're going to get some results, but they're not consistent. They're in the way, like you said, the way they play, they are not going to consistently punish these lower sides. It's just not going to happen. Now they are going to beat some higher, some sort of that Manchester United effect, that they are not going to accumulate enough points against the lower half of the table that they need to, even though they might accumulate some points against the higher half of the table. Just not going to happen. But my winner of the week, Fulham. I thought they were going to be the worst team in the league. They got a result against a top 6 side. Fulham's the winner of the week.
I'll agree with you. Fulham get my vote as well. Now, who's your loser of the week?
Oh, I mean, I got to scalp my own, Tammy Abraham. Chelsea really, and it's not so much that he had the worst performance, but the narrative, he probably should have scored at least one of those goals, probably or at least put him on the target. If he buries one of those goals against Tottenham, I think that he staves off Pulisic from taking his spot on the starting 11, and Tammy Abraham gets a nice solid run in the Chelsea starting 11. I think that match puts him to the bench. And so that's why I think that he's a loser in that match, that he had a chance to be on a title contending side, the out and out number 9. And maybe it's a little hyperbolic to say that match is the reason why he's going to be by the bench. But if he would have buried Tottenham at Stamford Bridge, you would have had a really hard time pulling him from the lineup.
So I will give it to another striker who has a worse scoring record than Tammy Abraham. Again, Blanca, Timo Werner, one of the most overrated strikers in the league. No, he was fine. Actually, I'm giving mine to Arteta. He is in serious trouble. So they're 16th in the league, 16th. In their last 5, they've lost 3 of them, drawn 1, won 1. And I think the problem that he has is he set a high bar for himself early with the FA Cup and Community Shield win. What has happened since then as well? They've actually improved their squad since then. When they came out the gates against Liverpool, people said, Arsenal, this is it. They've got a chance to do something. They're probably the worst they've ever been, and they can't score or create for love nor money, and there doesn't seem to be a great way forward for them as well. I think they're frustrated from a lack of expression. Maybe Arteta's jumped into them these set goal-scoring patterns, and it just looks like a tired, blanking team. And I'm not seeing a way around for them right now. So he's got some work to do to turn their season around.
I think he's a loser. I think that club is rotten to its core. I think you can read a David Ornstein article talking about how basically that club is run by an agent and he only signs his clients and whatnot. So I think Arteta, I think he brought structure to a side that definitely needed structure, but I don't know how motivated all those guys are. I think they got they're on high wages. Why did you pay, even at the time, paying Mesut Ozil $350,000? It wasn't like it was Real Madrid Mesut Ozil. He had been in the Premier League for a while and just wasn't that good, right? So I think it's club rot. I agree that I toyed with Arteta being the loser of the week, but I ultimately don't think it's his fault. I think it's rot to the core, and until they make fundamental, it sucks that, being American seems like basically we have 2 of the worst owners in the Premier League. We do have Fenway Sports Group, which redeems us a little bit, but it sucks that the Cronkies are just awful. But I think it's club rot, and I think they got lucky to get into Europe last year. Lucky, right? They're in the financial problems where they are firing their mascot and laying off people. I don't think they're going to get, Europa League isn't Champions League, but it is money, right? And it seemed like they were pushing towards investment this year, deficit spending, because they knew they needed to qualify for Europe again. I don't think they're qualifying for Europe, and I think it's going to be unfortunately, when you look at that side, Lacazette signed for a little bit, Willian signed for a little bit, you signed David Luiz for another year, Aubameyang's on a huge deal, Mesut Ozil, I don't think that contract's running out this year. This is your side.
And there's no sell-on value there as well. You're not making any money from that team to sell on.
No, not at all. That's what I'm saying. So what are you going to do? I think they're screwed, but who knows?
At least they got a new stadium.
The one thing is that what's interesting is I didn't watch the Premier League the Highbury times, but that was generally considered one of the best stadiums in the Premier League, right?
I think so, if not a bit quiet.
Yeah. Okay. Sad. But it wasn't held up like Anfield or the Theatre of Dreams, right? It was kind of a tier below that.
No, they used it for big FA Cup games. I think it was in that same tier as they'd have a World Cup game there. I don't really know. I'm sure it needed updating.
All right. Well, anyways, Ben, got kind of some tasty fixtures for next week. Ben, in my third position, the third most anticipated match, in my opinion, is maybe Chelsea will get a chance to prove it to you. Chelsea versus Leeds. Chelsea, who's not letting in any goals, versus Leeds, a side that's creating more XG than anyone else in the league. I'm interested to see if the Chelsea backline doesn't allow any chances to Leeds, I think we can firmly say that they're for real. The Thiago Silva, Kurt Zouma, Edouard Mendy pairing, it has solved the Chelsea backline. I think this is the first match. I think even Tottenham, right? They were playing a particular style, so it's not easy to defend, but at least you know what you're doing. This will be the first time that they are attacked by a team that could really put them under the chomp. So I'm interested to see if the Chelsea backline will hold against an attacking side.
I agree. I think they could get turned in circles, Chelsea, against this kind of team. When you keep chopping and changing and moving those players around and changing systems and move from one holding to two, I think it does hard. It's hard for your defensive. It creates defensive frailties.
Succotash, Ben.
Yeah, exactly. That's what she said. So yeah, I guess I agree. I think it's going to be really interesting to see if they can hold up against this type of system. I think they're going to get turned inside out.
Ooh! I like that. Late game. I don't know. It's so weird. The United game was a late game, Saturday at 3:00. It's very weird to watching Premier League football that late in the day, especially for us Americans with college football really taking over. Then the second most interesting match in this Ben's opinion, Liverpool v Wolves. Two side Liverpool, struggling a little bit with the injuries. Can Wolves put them to the sword without Jimenez up top?
Wolves is never going to be a team that I'm dying to watch. Again, we talk about that they're just so compact and they create few chances, and what they do, they finish. But then Liverpool with a ton of injuries. I think this is going to be a pretty stale game, to be honest.
Okay. And then maybe not the most aesthetically pleasing match of the weekend, but it's the one most drift with narrative. Spurs vs Arsenal. We got the North London derby. We got Mourinho smelling blood against Arsenal. But really, here will be what interesting. Do you think that I believe Spurs is at home in this match? Do you think Mourinho sits against Arsenal or tries to put them to the sword?
So I think they sit, but I think they need to go for it, because I think if they sit, Arsenal will sit. I don't think you're going to get picked off by Arsenal. I think you need to go for it.
I agree. Both sides are looking to sit. I'll be interested to see if, like I said, do you know that Harry Kane and Son in the Chelsea match had one shot in between them, right? I don't think that Arsenal is a side. There are sides that you need to, ultimately when Mourinho sets out for a draw, that's a sign of respect, right? I don't think that Arsenal deserves this respect. So I'll be interested to see if he does that tactic against Arsenal or is a little bit more attacking. I mean, where's Gareth Bale? Is he just, is he on the golf course instead of practicing each week and they kind of bring him out as a mascot? He didn't even get in that Chelsea match.
Yeah, that's not the game for him against Chelsea. We'll see if it is against Arsenal as well. I think we'll see two teams sitting and not much else. Can I throw out two other games that caught my attention? One is Man United West Ham, West Ham Man United. You got the Moyes return. You've got both teams playing attacking football, so that might be decent. I think they've got two good attacking systems with some good players. There could be some goals there as well. And then if you want to see goals and just attacking play, City seem to be back against Fulham. So City Fulham as well. It might be an absolute battering, which again might be great to watch. We didn't talk about City this week, but they're on fire again, and they can still do it against the small teams.
They laid a decent egg tonight again I forget who they played. Porto maybe. I can't remember. They didn't play very well tonight. But yes, I think Mahrez had a hat trick.
Yeah.
That is definitely, if you need to. I think the Spurs, Arsenal, Liverpool, Wolves might all be a little bit more defensive than you would like in your sort of headline matches. So I agree that, if you need to wash your palate of a Jose Mourinho park the bus game, that City just knifing through Fulham might be a nice way to do that. I think in the West Ham game, you guys are screwed because Miguel Antonio scored again. He's the best. He's the best player in England no one talks about. Period.
He's back.
All right, Ben. Match week 11 coming up. How many games are how many games are canceled this week?
I think just one. It's just that Villa game.
Yeah, we received a text. It was like 3 games are canceled. And I was like, is that true? Is that true? In the group text that we're on, it was thrown out 3 matches were canceled. I was assuming just the Newcastle match.
Oh, I think this is over the course of over the whole 10 weeks. We've got 3 in the thing.
No one cares about Newcastle anyways. They're the most blah team in the Premier League. So I no tears for me not being having to watch the Geordies play.
Yeah, although Villa might get some goals, so it's a bit of a shame.
Bit of a shame. See Mike Ashley cry as Jack Grealish scores. I don't think Mike Ashley even cares. So Jack Grealish for a hat trick. I don't think Mike Ashley cares at all that much.
He wants to.
Until next week, match week 11. Look forward to seeing you then.
Okay. Goodbye.
Bye.